Welcome. Ed Martin here in a Pro America Report. Great to be with you. Thank you for coming in and joining me. Go to proamericareport.com, by the way, proamericareport.com. You can sign up for the Daily Wink. You'll get a summary in the morning, each morning at 5 a.m. Pacific Time, 8 a.m. East Coast Time, and you will get, you'll get the link to, a lot of times, a link to this radio segment, the Wink. So a few hours later, if you already heard this, you might not like that, but you have to click on it, so you're not getting that only. And then a few key articles that set the tone. You know, I'm telling you what I'm telling myself and my wife and my children and my family. I don't watch the news. You cannot watch the cable news. It makes you crazy. It's designed to make you crazy. So don't do it. I mean, I'm being serious. This is not a joke. I'm not saying this because it's only because they're crazy. I mean, they are bad, they're evil, they're nasty, but all of it, including Fox News, it's all geared to make you nuts, and it's getting exhausting, and that's part of their plan. So I'm just turning it off. I do not watch the news. I don't watch the Sunday shows anymore. I don't watch any of that stuff. It's not worth it. It's not worth the insanity that it's putting us through. So don't do it. All right, anyway, so you get signed up at the proamericareport.com, and you'll get a Wink every morning, the Wink email, and then you'll be in good shape. All right, let me get a couple things out of my way beforehand. First of all, you got to watch something, and we'll come back to this. But we were talking about this a few weeks ago. We're always ahead of the curve. You want to be too. I can tell you something I'm seeing in the tea leaves, and it's this. America's schools are failing. It might be more accurate to say America's schools are flailing. I like to use the phrase flailing and failing. They're flailing around. I live in Northern Virginia now. I've been from St. Louis, Missouri for 25 years, and I moved out here about 2 years ago. I live in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County. Democrat-run, huge school district, huge amount of taxes, and they just can't figure out how to run. When they closed for the Wuhan virus, they went distant learning, and they couldn't get the computers to work, so after 2 weeks, they just said, we're out. Nothing. All over. Amazing. Now they've announced that in the fall, the students will be invited back to school. It's public school. And some can go, the invitation back to school, there's three options. Stay at home and do virtual learning completely. Okay, that doesn't seem like much of an option. Second one is come in 1 day a week and stay home 4 days. Still not very good. The other one, I think, is 2 or 3 days a week at school, 2 or 3 days home. Parents are going crazy. They can't believe it. The parents that have, daycare issues, because as you know, the American family is different than it's been. Two-parent families often have both parents working, but there's a lot of one-parent families, a lot of 1.5, divorces, all these things. So the big American school can't handle it. It's happening all over the country. But here's where it gets interesting. The teachers' unions, which are so powerful and have such an influence, such strength that they get great pay increases and huge pensions. Places like Illinois, they're bankrupt. California, almost bankrupt in the future from the pension liabilities of teachers' unions. But here's what the teachers are doing. They don't want to have to deal with school systems that have too many students for social distancing, so they can't get the classrooms, and they don't want to be exposed to things. So the teachers' unions are now leading the country because they're saying they're not going to come to work. And if they decide not to come to work in most big urban jurisdictions, they can stop the school from operating. So my point here is the schools aren't doing a good enough job. Parents know that now from the distance learning. They can't figure out how to open the fall because they're paranoid about everything from, what Dr. Fauci says to what the latest threats are and latest, polls. They watch CNN too, and makes them crazy. And then the teachers' unions are piling on. So it's a disaster. It's flailing and failing. Could be a great opportunity for education. And then today, by a 5-4 majority, the U.S. Supreme Court overruled Montana's state Supreme Court, which said a program that the state had passed, the governor had signed, which allowed money to flow to private schools as well as public schools, scholarships for kids. They couldn't block that on the grounds of it was a religious school, which means that other schools and other programs can allow money to come. A lot of times it's scholarships for students, and it's based on income need and all. But the point is, the barrier, this church and state nonsense that said it couldn't be done, when it comes to education, you can utilize non-public school, non-government monopoly schools. So school choice is coming. And my wife, who's smarter than me and is amazingly good at a lot of these things, even though it's not her business, she's a doctor. She says school choice is the transformative issue and we need it. And I think she might be right. So this is coming. Schools, public schools, all schools actually, are flailing and failing. And into that breach, there's going to be something that steps in. And I think that might be really positive possibilities, especially because a lot of the education, a lot of our problems with young people is poor education in terms of our history and our policies. But that's not even what you need to know today. What you need to know today is I want to flag this because I keep hitting this drumbeat for you. And there's a reason for it, because even though these crazy people in this country that are doing, riots and marches, Black Lives Matter, everybody else, they're a problem. That's not our biggest problem. That is a big problem. I don't mean to minimize it. But on the horizon is the problem of China, as I've told you, the communist Chinese. And just hours ago, the communist Chinese in Beijing passed laws, there's a couple of laws as I understand it, that will basically take away the freedoms of Hong Kong to govern and to govern itself. And this is part of the slow march, 25 years or so since the British left Hong Kong and turned it over to be autonomous supposedly, but China said we'll take care of it. And over these 25 years, they've eroded the relationship, the autonomy, and this is the sort of end point. It's not the end point, it's maybe the beginning of the end. Beijing passed these laws. Hong Kong can't resist them. The world is too busy with its own problems, and you're going to see the end of Hong Kong. As an autonomous, thriving market economy, it will now become a part of the communist regime, the communist Chinese regime. And my point in telling you that is only to make clear to you yet again, we're not dealing with honorable people. The communist regime in China is not honorable. And I'm doing a webinar for the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles each Wednesday, and I got another one tomorrow. I do this webinar, 1-hour webinar about the problem of the problem of communist China and our second Cold War. We are in a second Cold War. And China has done this to us with the Wuhan virus. That's caused the economy. They're giving us fentanyl that's killing our kids. All kinds of things that are happening. They took a lot of jobs. But they are primarily, what you need to know is they are immoral because they are communists. They do not play fair because they don't believe in that. They do not believe in honor and truth and contracts like we would. So as they take Hong Kong and they take it away, just understand that's the kind of, their thinking is not, oh, we had an honorable deal with the British as they left 25 years ago. Oh, isn't this good? No, they don't care. They don't care. They're on the march. China's on the march. And what you need to know is whether it's 5G, whether it's technology related to all sorts of other industries, whether it's our education system in terms of universities, which are absolutely infiltrated by the communist Chinese and their money. Remember, it was only a few weeks ago, NIH had 54 researchers leave, most of them fired, a few of them resigned, because they hadn't disclosed that they were receiving foreign money. And 93% of the disclosures that had been, the failure to disclose, 93% were Chinese money. It's not like there was a lot of, Peruvian money being slushed around at the NIH. It was Chinese money. I bet you the other money was something that was Chinese laundered, but I don't know. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe it was EU or something. But the point here is, this is the reality. This is the reality of the threat of China that we have to be aware of and understand. And I know people say, well, let's worry about Black Lives Matter. It's true. There's things to be worried about with Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying there's not, but I am saying that you do need to understand the enemy that's around us. And I just watched it today and I thought, is there any media going to cover any of the China stuff today? Probably not, because they're spending all their time talking about whether President Trump was briefed in person or on paper about some sort of Afghanistan-y, crazy thing. Who knows? I mean, who knows what they'll brief us, what they'll tell us is important, but it's not what's important, and you got to know that. All right, we got some great guests today. We'll talk a little bit about Antifa in a few minutes. We've got a guest. We'll also talk about what I call the ongoing problem of prosecutorial misconduct. We saw it with General Flynn, but there's other examples. We'll talk about that. And I will finish today and later on the program, and I'll explain to you how the tech crush is going to continue through the election. It's not a coincidence it's starting in June as they're knocking off conservatives from platforms. It's not a coincidence. It's intentional. The timing's intentional, and it will continue through the election. That's what's going to happen. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. It's Ed Martin here on Pro America Report. Be back in a moment.